There are so many good weapons in Black Ops 7, but which ones are the best? So today we're going to be going over the top 5 best weapons with the best classes that you should be using. First up, we got the Draic 45, and this is not going to be the exact build that you maybe want. I will give you the variation. This is going to be more of like the best statistical build. The thing that kind of brings it down is that lack of ammo. We're going to be using the fast mag, so we're only going to have about 30 bullets, but we got the no recoil. We have a lot of mobility, and it just overall feels absolutely amazing. This is definitely the best SMG in the game. I wouldn't look at my perks or anything like that since it's just the game always resets it, and I don't use any of that stuff. So for the muzzle, I really do recommend the Hawker stabilizer, although you can easily get away with the BO7 suppressor if you want to be off the radar to help yourself build up those streaks. But I think you're going to be doing just fine with the Hawker. This can increase that first shot recoil control, so then once you shoot the gun, there's no recoil. If you hold down the trigger and miss a lot of bullets, or just overall just always hold down the trigger, my nose is itchy, use the compensator. This is going to give you a better general recoil pattern. The Hawker is better for the initial shots, which typically you should be killing the enemies pretty fast, and so that's why I was using that one. For the long barrel, for the barrel, we are going to be using the long barrel, making it take less shots at range. The SMGs in this game are very weak compared to the ARs, and so this is going to be a must on basically every SMG that you use. For the magazine, this is where you could change things. You can use the 30 round mag or the 48 round mag. So the 30 round is going to make it so you can reload faster, which in a way feels like more ammo, since a lot of the time in this game you die because you got to reload. This is going to make it so you can reload significantly faster. And then if you pair that up with the fast hands perk, you're reloading in like a blink. And then we also increase the ADS speed and that sprint to fire speed, making it so this gun is just even better up close. Now the 48 round mag, there's not going to be any cons, and then you're going to be able to have an extra couple bullets. So maybe on Nuketown, use this one, and then other maps use that 30 round mag. For the rear grip, I recommend the Herald, just to make it so no matter what, you're going to be able to fire your gun off pretty fast. The only SMG that you don't really need to use this Herald or this type of grip is going to be the MPC, because that gun naturally has a lot of mobility. This one without it, our slide to fire speed is going to be 370. You need it around like 290 for it to be a pretty competitive gun. Now it brings it down to 296, so it's going to be fitting perfect on this gun. Lastly, you're going to want to go over to the stock and add the servo Q step stock, maximizing that strafe speed, increases it by 20%. So then you're going to be a 20% more difficult to hit as long as you're strafing in a way. And then it also just makes it easier to actually stay on target because you get a little bit extra aim assist. And so now that's why we have the mobility with the no recoil. Very good TTK, and just overall it's going to be a very good 5 attachment Draic 45. With the 8 attachments, I don't really recommend it, but you could add you could do the recoil springs and then throw on the suppressor and then throw on a sight. Maybe you could do the elo sight. And then for the laser, what I recommend is the Draic laser, increasing hip fire to ADS accuracy, and so now it's going to be pretty accurate, and you can kind of like pre-fire your shots. But overall, I would just stick with that 5 attachment build. You don't need this many. By the way, if you want every camo in Black Ops 7, make sure you check out my long-term sponsor, Guapsi. This is a group of people who will legitimately grind your account to unlock anything you want. This goes for all the master camos, iridescent, like actually anything, and they don't break TOS or play with cheaters, so there's absolutely no risk of being banned. I've worked with them for the past 3 years and haven't seen a single negative review. And so if you want all the master camos or iridescent rank risk-free, make sure you check out Guapsi.com. I'll have their link down in the description. Next up, we got the M15, but it's going to be having a couple new attachments. So this gun just got nerfed, but this is going to be the best class after the nerf, actually, I genuinely don't think there's anything better in the game than this gun. Like, bro, the iron sights are great. I will give you a variation in case you want to use a sight, but very good iron sights. There's no recoil, and we have so much damage range that you're going to be slamming every lobby with this thing. So basically the good attachment is going to be the FMJ ammo. It's going to increase that damage range, give you more score streak damage and penetration, which doesn't really matter. And then it also inflicts more flinch onto the enemy. So if you hit that first shot, or just in general any shots, their screen's going to shake a lot more. So then it's going to be more difficult for them to actually kill you. And then it's going to be taking less bullets at range. And there's no minimap firing ping. Like, this thing, unbelievably broken. You have to use this on like every M15 build. It does lower the bow velocity, but you can see the bow velocity on this build, 752, so that's not going to really matter. And the reason we get that is with the fusion barrel, maximizing the damage range and the bow velocity, given that we don't really even need that much damage range. But like if we were to use the bow, so you could do the bow velocity round. This barrel, super good. It's because now our bow velocity is 870, and then we also have a good enough damage range. The biggest gunfight you'll get in is like 46 meters. But I felt a little bit better with the fusion barrel, so it's kind of up to you. For the muzzle though, we are going to be adding the RL 5.56 brick. for the same reasons as that Draic. We need to make sure there's no recoil right when we fire the gun, making it easy to land those next shots, and that's exactly what the break is going to be giving us. Then for the magazine, we're going to be adding the 45 round extended mag, making it so we don't really have to worry about reloading as often. Given if you do want to use an optic or anything else, I would take off the magazine. You could do an underbarrel like this one, the steady, that increases your movement speed so you can get around the map a little faster, but I prefer not to really have to reload as often. And then just to make the weapon even more versatile, we're going to be adding the hex cut, increasing that die to fire and that slide to fire speed, as well as that true sprint to fire speed. One thing about the true sprint to fire speed is you want to look at your sprint to fire and your ADS speed. Whichever value is slower, that's going to be your true sprint to fire speed. So what I mean by that, I've said this a lot, but is when you slide ADS or whenever you ADS, that's typically when you fire the gun. You're not really firing before you ADS, which is why it's typically going to take 224 milliseconds until you actually fire the gun rather than the 210. You're always kind of ADS'd in the gunfight. This is going to be the best 5 attachment M15 build. Then for the 8 attachment one, which is honestly insane, we're going to be going over to the underbarrel. I recommend just adding probably just you know what, for me, I want to move around the map a little bit faster. There's no recoil on the gun anyway, so might as well boost the mobility. Then we're going to be adding the wander stock, increasing that strafe speed. And then I personally prefer to use an optic, but you could use the iron sights if you want. Then you could add a nice little laser, that precision one that we used on the Draic. The ADS speed isn't crazy, but it's still pretty good. And there's no recoil. You move around the map pretty fast. Like this gun is absolutely dumb broken. Next up, we got the MXR-17, which is actually the fastest killing AR in the game. If you can hit a headshot. Without the headshot, honestly, it doesn't kill that fast. So we need to make sure the gun's pretty accurate, pretty consistent, so you can land enough shots to be able to, you know, get that very fast TTK. Again, you want to use the Red Will 7.62 brakes, so then you can land the rest of your shots pretty fast. I don't know why it's glitching out and not telling me what it does, but it increases that first shot and that vertical recoil control. If you're holding down the trigger, obviously the compensators gives you a better general recoil pattern, but you'll typically kill the enemies faster with the Red Will. And then for the barrel, we are going to go over here and we are going to be adding the Imperial. With just in general, this gun actually doesn't have that good of a damage range, so we just need to maximize that. And then our bolt velocity, I believe right now, is like 750, which for an AR you typically want around 750 milliseconds for that bolt velocity. Then for the magazine, since the gun only has about 25 rounds, I found that the 40 round mag is working a lot better. Keep in mind, there is a very good gunfighter build with the rapid fire. You just got to use a couple things to counteract that recoil. Then for the rig up, we are going to use the celerity. I don't know what, I can't say that. This can increase the ADS speed. And the reason I'm going for a lot of ADS speed rather than like slide of fire and ADS speed is that if I see 2 targets, you can typically do a lot better if you move around the map like that rather than trying to snap to each one. And this is a gun where you want the enemies to push you. And so if you're snapping target to target at range, then it's going to be a lot easier to do so with a faster ADS, and that's what this grip is going to give us. And lastly, same reasons as before, you want to be able to strafe very fast, making yourself a way tougher target to hit. I do want to use some other stocks, but it's just difficult to get away from the gate. I don't know what that means. This is a really good stock right here though. Very good 5 attachment MXR-17 class. Now for the 8 attachment one, we're going to be going over here and we are going to be, you could do the overpressured rounds, but you don't really need that much bolt velocity. So I kind of like using the rapid fire. Then we go over to the barrel and we add the hybrid barrel. So yes, our damage range isn't crazy, but then our bolt velocity is going to be super good. So then we never need to lead our shots and it's going to feel a little bit stronger. Without the hybrid barrel, like say we're on the long barrel, our damage range is only going to be, our bolt velocity is going to be 700 and it's going to feel like you have a lot of ghost bullets. If you don't really notice anything wrong, you can do that. But I feel a lot better with the hybrid barrel. And I just love the rapid fire on this gun. Like it genuinely feels so good. You kill the enemy so fast. And it's a lot more forgiving because this gun fires a lot slower. Then for the underbarrel, since this gun only really bounces side to side, we are going to be adding the underbarrel that basically gives us 20% of that horizontal recoil control. Still a little bit of vertical, but as long as you can hit that first shot on the enemy, you're not going to be really seeing that much. Since you only want to fire out a couple bullets, you don't want to hold down the trigger with this gun. And then if you like the iron sights, then that's amazing. I personally really like the iron sights. So then I'm going to go over here and I believe it's this one. I don't know why it's not telling me my ADS speeds, but this one is going to increase your ADS speed. So then the weapon's even snappier up close and it just feels extremely good, even though we have a huge magazine on the gun. But feel free to take that off for the ELO sight. Next up, we have the best burst weapon I've ever used, the X9 Maverick. This is a 1 burst kill, but if you miss that 1 burst, you might actually, even then, you're not even going to lose the gunfight. You guys can see there's no recoil on the gun. Like, this gives you some of the easiest nukes in the world. I love this gun, and I think you guys are gonna do too. For the muzzle, again, we're using that Nova burst to increase that first shot recoil control, and it resets the kick, so then it goes back to like no recoil, or back to that initial wherever it was at, a lot just a lot cleaner and more accurately, if that makes sense, compared to any other muzzle. If you want to be off the radar, suppressor also works very well. I got one of my first nukes, or my first double nuke, with a suppressor on my gun, and it was this gun with the suppressor, and so that feels fine as well. But Nova's just going to be extra accurate. I don't like the iron sights. The iron sights aren't bad. I don't like them though, so I'm going to be adding the elo, but feel free to take that off. Maybe for an underbarrel you want to move around faster, but this gun doesn't really need any attachments to where you're going to be perfectly fine. The bolt velocity is already good. The damage range isn't that good, which is why we are adding the long barrel, maximizing that. And even then, it's still only going to like one burst up to 22 meters, unless you get a nice headshot in there. You get some headshots, and you'll have a very far distance with one burst, kill. And then for the rear grip, we are going to be adding the dataless grip. This can increase that slide to fire speed as well as the ADS speed. Now, this gun already has a pretty fast ADS, so if there's two targets, I can already ADS on them pretty fast. But since it is a burst weapon, you really need to make sure you see the enemy first in case you miss that first shot. So I like to, if I need to slide into the gunfight, I want to be able to fire a little bit faster, and it just definitely, it's just a little bit better with the dataless grip compared to any other grip in the game. Obviously, you could take that off for something else, but I feel very good with this one. Then lastly, again, you want to use that Strider overstep stock, so you have a lot of strafe speed. Right here is going to be the best 5 attachment X9 Maverick. Now, 8 attachment one, again, you don't really need to use this, but I'm going to be increasing the movement speed with the steady, moving around, making it feel a little bit lighter. And then we're going to go to the fire mods, and I would personally, at this point, probably use the rapid fire. Yeah, I want to use the rapid fire. Let's use the hybrid barrel, but it's just going to take a lot of shots at range because it just kills the range. And the fire rate's already pretty good to where I would just use the overpressured rounds. So then basically, no matter where you're at, up to about 45 meters, you're going to have that hit scan immediate. Just you pull the trigger and the enemies are dead. And then I'm going to honestly use this is the hip fire to ADS accuracy at once. So then you can kind of like pre-fire your shots, and that might save you. But it's kind of a waste of attachment where I just recommend the 5 attachments on the weapon. Could even take off the grip and then add the overpressured for the 5 attachment. But overall though, this is what I prefer for the 8 attachment X9 Maverick. And lastly, we have genuinely my favorite weapon in the game, the AK-27. This is a phenomenal weapon with no recoil and a very fast TTK. And I just realized that this whole top 5 is all ARs. M8's good. There's some good snipers and shotguns and things like that. But in the future, I'll get to those ones. I'm just going over the weapons that are personally, or what I know statistically are the best. Like the SMGs kind of suck in this game, and the only one that's the best is going to be the Draic. All these ARs do what the SMGs, up close they're better, and then at long range they're better. So there's no point to use SMGs if you're trying to, maybe drop nukes and stuff. So for the suppressor, for the muzzle, we are adding the suppressor. This gun naturally doesn't have any recoil, so this is just going to keep you off the radar. Again, making it easier to build up that streak. But if I were to use a muzzle, I would use the Eclipse 7.62 break. For the barrel, we are going to be using the hybrid barrel, maximizing that bolt velocity and that damage range. Honestly, the damage range barrel is good, but you can see the bolt velocity is only at 700, so we're only getting hits get up to 35 meters, which honestly makes the weapon feel not that good. This is going to make the gun feel a lot more consistent. Then for the underbarrel, we are going to be adding the iron hold angled grip. I would show you what it does for the weapon, but it's kind of glitching out, not really giving me the pluses. Maybe it is now. But 20% for that horizontal recoil control, a lot of aiming idle stability, so then the sights aren't going to sway at all, and it just overall feels so much better when you add the iron hold angled grip onto there. Then for the rear grip, we are going to be adding the Garnin advanced grips, so then it increases that slide to fire speed. This gun, you can see the damage range isn't that good, so it's honestly meant to be used aggressively, so this is going to allow you to use it aggressively. Previously, I would use the quick draw grip, let the enemies push me because it is a little bit of a heavier gun. But then I realized the damage range isn't that good, and you get very fast TTKs. You can spawn trap very easily when you play aggressive, and the Garland allows you to do so. Then lastly, again, we're using the Victor 7R stock, but I would take this off if you want to use an optic magazine or anything else. This is just what I prefer for my AK-27. Right there, 5 attachment. If you do find this video helpful, you want more just like it, make sure you subscribe with the noties on. Leave a comment, feel a little hype button on there. Now, 8 attachment, we're going to be adding the 40 round magazine. At this point, I would probably just add an optic onto my gun. I'm using the elo, love that sight. And then we are going to be adding the overpressured rounds, which now we have too much bolt velocity, so then we can go over to here, add the long barrel, getting a lot of bolt velocity, a lot of damage range. We got all the stats that we need. Phenomenal build right here. All that said, that is going to wrap it up for the top 5. So let me know in the comments, what is your current favorite weapon in the game? I hope you guys do enjoy these builds.